Hello. So I'm using a new microphone right now, and I hope that everyone can hear me. So if you're listening, send me a message if you can't hear me, and I'll make sure that I get it sorted out. But what I wanted to talk about today is the 5 traps that I see people commonly get stuck in when on any kind of healing journey. And I want to talk about these today so that you can avoid them. So we're going to talk about what they are, but also, more importantly, how can you avoid them? I have worked as a nurse for the last 9 years and have worked coaching clients one-on-one for the last 4 years. And I see time and again these same traps, really common traps that people get stuck in that keep them from where they want to be. So that's what we're going to talk about today, so you can bust through these traps. So the first one is the information trap, information overload trap. So I don't know about you, but for me, even just this morning, I opened my email inbox and I had about 10 different messages giving me information about how to, treat acne from the inside out, about avoiding histamines, another thing about gut health, about environmental toxins, like information overload. And it's really great because we have tons of information these days about how we can support our body using things like nutrition and lifestyle pieces, and much more so even than 15 years ago when I was first starting to go through all of this with my own autoimmune issues. And so it's great. And information is power. And it's super empowering, right? To feel like we can take some control ourselves. And the other side of this is that there's so much information, so much. And a lot of it can be really conflicting as well. So this information overload, where we're constantly receiving information, taking in information, can leave you feeling really overwhelmed, really confused, and honestly, like your health is a full-time job. And I've seen a lot of people get stuck in this place, and it really doesn't feel good. So the antidote to the information trap or the information overload is to make sure that you are not just consuming information all the time. And I get it why we want to consume information, because we want to learn. And many of us may not have come from a health background, or a lot of us aren't taught about nutrition growing up or anything like that. So it really is learning, and it's wonderful to learn all of these things. But we also want to make sure that we are putting things into action and assessing how things work in our own body and lives. So if you feel stuck in the consuming side of things, where you're just trying to find that next piece of information that's going to be the thing to help you, and it feels overwhelming in that place, the antidote can be taking some action. So taking a little pause. Sometimes I'll have clients take a pause from, blogs and podcasts and books and all of this just for a little bit, just to give yourself a break from the information overload and feeling like the pressure is on you to crack the case or solve everything. Just taking a small break from that and seeing how your body feels. And then putting things into action and really focusing on tuning in to see how they are making you feel. So we can have all the information in the world, but if we aren't putting it into practice in a way that makes sense for us, that feels good, that feels sustainable, we just keep getting stuck in this information trap. So that's the first one to look out for and see where you're at there. The second one is the trap of only focusing on food as the sole pillar of health. And of course, I'm a functional nutritionist, and I think nutrition coach, and I think that food is so important, right? Food is information. Food is fuel. Food really supports our bodies. But when it comes to healing, food is not everything. Food is not everything. And I recently just wrote an article about this, published on Autoimmune Wellness. You can check out for more information as well. But really, sometimes what happens is when we start to delve into this, we start with food. And what can happen is if we only focus on food as the main and only pillar of health, we can sometimes find that if we are using food and everything else in our life and health isn't getting better, we are only left with the option to restrict more and more foods. So then we might find ourselves in a place where we feel really restricted. We feel like we only have 5 foods that we can eat. We feel like we have to keep searching to find the food that might be making us feel bad. And that can put us into a place that doesn't feel good either. And at the same time, food is huge, food is important, but it is not everything. So zooming out a little bit and looking at all of these other pieces of nourishment in our lives and things that determine our health, such as our stress, our daily stress. How is our body responding to stressors? What's our nervous system doing is a huge part of health. Our sleep, our relationships, our mindset, our beliefs about our bodies and our ability to heal. And going even further, looking at some of the functions of our body, a bit deeper, right? So only focusing on food can sometimes bring us to a place that feels really frustrating, that feels restrictive, and it feels like we don't have anywhere else to go. So just take a quick inventory and see for you if you feel stuck in that place. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it can be helpful just to zoom out a little bit and see where else in your life can you provide support, can you put attention to, in addition to considering the nutrition that you're putting in your body. And the third trap that I commonly see people fall into or get stuck in is kind of going a little bit further off of what we just talked about. So we have this notion that we are what we eat, but really we are what our body can do with what we eat. So we are what we digest, assimilate, and absorb. So a lot of times I'll see people really experimenting a lot with food, eating beautiful, beautiful diet, but finding that maybe their digestion is off. They're not breaking down and absorbing food, and they're still having a lot of other issues. So I find it to be really important to not only think about what food we're eating, but also how is our body breaking down and absorbing that food? How are we using that food? And that has a lot to do with just the health of the digestive tract. And the digestive tract is so important because it's where food meets our physiology, our body. And if you know me, you know I talk a lot about digestive health. I have an online program I created specifically for people getting stuck in this trap called Love Your Gut. And it's a self-paced online program that really helps you move through this and understand not just what you're eating, but how is your body using that and how can you support a healthy digestive system from top to bottom. So it is absolutely critical. This is a huge step. And I see a lot of people not get the attention that they need in this area, but it's a massive trap, right? So we could be eating all the beautiful, most beautiful food in the world, but if our body isn't able to break down, digest, and absorb that food, we might still feel like we have some issues. So that is a really big one I see. And if you're interested in that, you can send me a message. You can head to ChristinaTidwell.com and you can access my Love Your Gut program there. It's super helpful and I created it specifically for this. So it's going to give you all the tools you need to really support a healthy digestive system, which is really important. So the fourth trap that I see is people skipping over or just not spending quite enough time on the foundational pieces of health. And I recently wrote an article about cultivating resilience, or the importance of establishing a really strong baseline for health when it comes to managing any kind of chronic illness or just wellness and being healthy. And you can access that at my website on my blog about cultivating resilience. But what I find where I find a lot of people getting stuck, and I've been here myself actually, is not spending enough time in some of these areas before they move on. So I may have, people say, well, I did a gut healing protocol, so I worked on my gut, or I worked on my stress, I worked on my sleep, I worked on this, so I'm done. Or like I worked on my food, I figured it out. And while you have probably done so much good work in those areas and learned a lot about yourself and done a ton of good work, if you're still experiencing health issues, or even just if you're a human body, there's a lot of tending that we have to do to these specific areas. So things like tending to your gut health, tending to your stress and your body and your resilience moving throughout the day. Those are things that we will tend to through life. And sometimes you might spend more energy on them than others, but they are never pieces where we are completely done. We may not have to put as much attention to them once we've already done a ton of work in that area. And you'll know when I'm talking about this, you'll know kind of where you're at and where you fit. But skipping over these pieces, I see a lot of where people kind of say, yeah, I figured out food, I figured out my gut, I figured out sleep, I figured out stress. I need to work in some of these higher level interventions, which might be things like, herbs or supplements or protocols to treat a virus or an infection, or something even like SIBO, antimicrobials that you're working with a doctor on. A lot of these different sort of, we'll call them higher level interventions. What I see people fall into a trap of is trying some of these higher level interventions without feeling like they've really got a strong foundation or baseline. So checking in and seeing, okay, what's your stress like on a daily basis? Are you going to the bathroom regularly? Are you sleeping regularly? And do you feel like you know what foods work for you on a daily basis? And are they being broken down and absorbed well into your body? So asking yourself some of these kind of basic foundational questions before we might get to some of these higher level interventions. And really great practitioners that you may be working with will be aware of that, the importance of building strong foundations before they put in some of these interventions. But what I see sometimes is that isn't always the case, and people might end up feeling worse, or things just might not work as effectively, and you feel kind of like, oh man, back to square one. So I see this trap happen a lot. So all that you really have to do is kind of consider, where are you at in that space, and always come back to focusing on those foundations and building physiological resilience, which you can read more about in my blog post, before you move on. Because I work with a lot of people, and we end up, even anyone that thinks, oh, I'm done with that. And like I'm saying, I've done this before too. I was like, I'm done with that. I did the gut health thing. No, there's always more. There's always more, especially if you are finding that things aren't working or you're still not feeling well. So that is the fourth trap. And the fifth and final trap that I see a lot of people get stuck in is jumping around from different protocol to different protocol. And again, I've done this one myself too. So what you might find is, say you try something like going gluten-free, right? And maybe that helps your digestion, but you still have joint pain. So you think, okay, well, someone told me about keto, I'm going to try a keto diet. And then that might make you feel a little bit better in your body, but it doesn't feel sustainable. So you think, okay, I'm going to try an autoimmune paleo. I read about that. Maybe I should try something like that. Or, I'm going to try a GAPS diet or whatever it is, right? Jumping around kind of from protocol. And what I find is that that's a really frustrating place to be, right? Because you're always like switching gears. You feel like nothing's working. You feel like you're trying everything, and you just feel like you're kind of like throwing things at the wall and hoping they stick. And I've seen so many clients in that place that are just like, oh, Christina, I am over this. This is not sustainable. This does not feel good. And what I will say in that place is, sometimes you will try something like, say you did the gluten-free, right? And maybe it helped your gut, but you noticed something else is going on. Instead of thinking, okay, I did this and it didn't completely resolve all of my health issues, so it didn't work for me, so I need to try something else. Rather than doing that, think to yourself, what did this tell me about my specific body? What did I learn in this experiment? Did I learn, that gluten affects my digestive system, but, this is still something that's going on for me, blah, blah, blah. So asking yourself, what did you learn from that, and how can you use that information about yourself to move forward from a more informed place, rather than feeling like you have to jump to another planned protocol or strict template that might not work exactly for your body. So as opposed to just saying, this didn't work to completely fix everything, gather that information that you did learn and move forward feeling more informed and empowered. So that trap of jumping around a lot can feel super exhausting, and it can cause us to kind of tune out of our bodies a little bit rather than tune in. And really the foundation of everything is tuning in, feeling into what works for your body, learning from different things that you might put in or things you might change for your body, and moving forward from there. So I hope that helps to illuminate some of these traps. And I just really, really don't want you to get stuck in these. And so that's why I wanted to talk about them today, because I've worked with so many clients who have been stuck in different versions of these for years, 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 years. And they come to me feeling really overwhelmed, feeling like nothing has worked, feeling like they've jumped around so much, and just feeling like totally confused and so much pressure on themselves that they have to figure out their health, right? Sometimes when we get this power back of, okay, cool, there are things I can do on a daily basis to support my body, we then take a lot of that pressure with it too. And we think we have to crack the code. We have to figure it out. And it can be really overwhelming. It can be a lot, especially if you're exhausted already. And especially if you can't see some of those things you're going through because you're in them. I myself have coaches and mentors because I can't see everything when I'm in it. So having that outside expert advice to move you through quickly, to streamline things, to guide, and to give you the confidence that you're doing everything you can on a daily basis to support your health in a way that works for you is absolutely invaluable. And that is my passion. That's what I do. So I want to move you through so you don't get stuck in these traps for years so that you can get to where you want to be, which ultimately is to be healthy, to have energy, to be able to come home from work and feel like you have energy left to do creative things, to be able to play with your kids, to feel good in your body. This is the goal. This is where we want. And we're all trying super hard to get there, right? That's what we're all, at the end of the day, that's where we want to be. So I hope seeing some of these traps and shedding a little light on them is helpful, just so you can see where you might be and what you can kind of look out for. So let me know if you have any questions here in the comments. I always offer free 30-minute discovery calls if you are interested in one-on-one coaching. And if this resonates with you, I would be happy to chat with you. In these calls, we can connect. I can learn more about you, what's going on for you, and we can really see if we'd be a good fit for coaching. So I'd be happy to speak with you if that's something you're interested in learning more about. And you can head to my website, christinatidwell.com, and book in your free 30-minute call there. You can leave me a message here and we can connect and figure out a time as well. But let me know your thoughts on any of these traps. And if you have felt stuck in them before, if you feel stuck in them now where you're at, let me know. I would love to hear, and I would love to help you and support you, because it is possible to move through these pieces. It is possible to feel good in your body. It is possible to have energy. And sometimes it's just about putting the pieces together and understanding the whole picture and getting that guidance to move through. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope my microphone worked. And I will speak to you all soon. Okay,